So I'm gonna take my measuring tape and I'm gonna put it on my clipper. You'll notice that it's just shy of 2 inches. One thing that you're going to see me constantly doing whenever I'm blending. Welcome back to the YouTube Barber Academy. Over 700 videos to help you learn, and today is no different. We got into the shop before sunrise and I've been over here cranking away on this lesson. We recently had a customer walk in here who had 6 months of growth, and I'm going to show you guys a strategy that I used that allowed me to execute this entire blend in about 20 minutes. Out of the 700 videos that I've done, so many of them are skin fades. Almost all of them have an element of a skin fade in them. A lot of you guys have asked questions throughout the years, well, what if I just wanted to do a number 1? What if I just wanted to do a number 2? I just want to point out to you guys that you guys can apply these steps at any level. So yes, you're going to see me put in my trimmer line, my skin line, use my electric shaver, right? But basically all you would do in that case is, instead of doing all that, you can put that line in with the number 1 or the half guard or maybe the open taper, whatever you want to do to make things easy. And if you're a brand new barber, you're just starting out, a haircut that you really need to master first is a very basic haircut. You need to master how to do a number 2 on the back and sides with scissors on top and make that blend come out good. I would just say that if you guys could build some reps around that, that's going to make you so much more well-rounded, because the way you really got to look at this is connecting the top from the sides is kind of a different skill, and blending out everything below is another skill. So we're going to kind of make that distinction there, but don't feel like you have to jump right into the hardest haircut on earth. But if you do, I'm here for you. So check out this client's hair, man. He comes in here straight woofing. I don't know where he's been, but it's all good. We're going to put him right. So let's get this thing started. And behind me, we're going to be using the board today. Let me make the circle. I actually really love this thing that Williamsport sent me. So if you guys have been watching, you guys know about my faded acronym. Now I know this client, I've cut his hair a lot, but if I didn't know this client, I definitely want to apply the acronym. F, find out what the client wants. Be specific, show pictures, make sure that you guys are both on the same page. A lot of times there's not really a bad haircut, there's just a bad level of communication at the consultation level. So the next step to the acronym would be A, analyze and adapt. So I'm looking for colics, I'm looking for growth patterns, I'm looking for thick and thin spots. Comb through the hair, take your time here so that later in the haircut, something doesn't sneak up on you. I'm not gonna go through the whole acronym. We're starting out with phase 1. Now phase 1 just means to remove bulk. As you see, he's coming in here, straight wolfing, hair super long, and he's telling me, listen man, I'm a mechanic, I don't really got time for my hair, I wanna cut this top down to a number 4, and I want to do like a mid to high skin fade. I grab my number 4, I'm going to put it on my X Instinct clipper, I'm going to close the lever, and I'm going to begin leading the clipper with the comb so that I can get that bulk removed as quickly as possible. When we are removing bulk, that is phase 1. And in this case, because this client wanted a number 4 on top, we were able to handle the top in phase 1. So there will be no phase 3 to this haircut. The next step that we're going to use in this process, I actually took my new Andis eMerge. If you guys haven't seen the Andis eMerge review, I've actually come to really like this machine. Although the stats aren't overwhelmingly great and all this other stuff, it's very quiet, it gets the job done good, and check out the full review. I just put the number 2 on and I'm moving up the sides. So essentially what we have here is we have the number 2, and when I get up to the top, I'm just letting it kind of tip out and away. Now, one of the reasons why I did that number 2 was just so that I can put that trimmer line in accurately. If we get into this clipper manipulation, just a little bit right here, the C motion is simply me moving like this so that I can soften any type of blend that I'm gonna have to do between the 2 and the 4. We're gonna grab our trimmer. I actually have the all new Gamma boosted trimmer. I'm kind of loving this thing right now. It's been in my top rotation. I will be releasing a review on this soon. However, all we're going to do is face the trimmer down, and we're gonna put in our line. This is gonna put a harsh guideline in if your trimmer's not set correctly. Now, the first of the industry secrets I'm gonna share with you is how we're gonna put in our skin line to make life easy, all right? One of the number 1 ways I do that is I use a taper blade. If I'm not sure what the client's hair is gonna do, if I don't know how difficult it's going to be, if I see somebody with thick, coarse hair, I know for a fact that skin line is gonna be more difficult to get out than the client that's sitting in my chair currently. He has very fine hair. I know no matter how harsh I put this line in, I have tools to remove it. So out of my 2 trimmers that I'm currently using right now, this one I have set it really close, it's 0 gapped, and this one I've soft set. Every time that you see me use my trimmer to put a harsh guideline in, you're going to see me pick up the Cyborg, because the way I have the Cyborg set, I know this line is going to be very easy to remove. Okay, I want to show you guys something real quick. Take a look at this little tool right here. You'll notice that on the top it says 0 gap aggressive, and on the other side it says soft. The reason why I wanted to show you guys that was because I have this one aggressively 0 gap. That means that it's going to cut super close. That also means that if I use this to put in this guideline, it's going to be super harsh and probably really difficult to get out. You'll notice if you watch me a lot that I almost always will put in my guideline with this Cyborg trimmer when I choose to put in a harsher guideline. A lot of times I'll actually put it in with my taper blade on clients that I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to remove that skin line easy. I'm trying to make life just as easy as I possibly can here, and I have learned one thing over the years. If you see hair that's very fine, typically speaking, you're going to be able to get a harsh skin line out really easy. However, the difficulty will come when you're trying to connect the parietal ridge to the top of the hair. And the parietal ridge is the area when I put a comb up against the side of the head, it's the area where the comb leaves the head. I know for a fact that his hair is super fine, and I know that that area is going to be a lot harder than removing the harsh skin line. So basically at this point in the haircut, we're going to put in our skin line, and then I'm going to go underneath it and I'm going to start flicking up and out as I reach towards the top area where I left that line. Take your time here and let's make sure that this is balanced on both sides of the head. And if your client has a nasty colic, if you're going to keep it longer in the top, when you did your faded acronym and you analyze this hair, this would be the time where you decide whether or not you want to drop the fade a little bit in the back. Sometimes you should, sometimes you shouldn't. If the client is thinning in the back, there's a lot of reasons why you might do this. Now we're coming up to the tail end of phase 1. And I actually have the Uno single foil electric shaver here to demonstrate, but I actually use the Flex shaver that actually has 3 different speeds, and I have it set at 9500 because this client's skin, it is not super sensitive, and I'm able to just remove bulk with that easily. So our goal here is keeping in line with flicking up and out. So it's sort of like using the C motion, but with the electric shaver. Now, if you don't have a single foil electric shaver, you're going to be losing out on a lot of cool things. One of the best things you can do with this is to fix your blend at the end. It's so small, I can be so specific. I can tap down, I can flick up, I can just use a corner. So this is just a tool that's really going to help you nail your blends, and obviously it's good for using it in tapers or low fades or even just like fixing up the beard line. You would be surprised how well you can maintain your beard line through a couple of days by just using a tool like this. And I really love using it right at the top of my mustache. This area right here is really sensitive. It's very easy to cut people. A lot of times their hair on their mustache, it literally grows right into their nose. I'm still going to use the blade as a follow-up step, but I like using this to kind of knock that down before I do that. Our goal here is to go ahead and remove all that bulk towards the bottom. You can push as hard as you want. You're trying to find all the grain patterns and make sure that you go against them. You want that client to feel the side of his head, and you want him to feel absolutely no hair. So you might actually have to use your hand and feel around a little bit and just make sure that you get that all the way down to skin, because that's really going to help your blend stand out in the end with the contrast. Once I get close to this top line, I'm going to begin flicking out. I might tap down, and my real goal here is to make sure that there is no line with my electric shaver and my trimmer line. I seen his skin getting a little bit red. He hasn't had a haircut in a long time. His scalp has not seen the sun in a long time because he's grown his hair out so long. So I'm actually going to just stop for a second with this client, and I threw a little bit of aftershave on him. The aftershave that I chose to use was from Johnny B, but it's just something really nice to take care of that client's skin as you go. It takes me no time at all to just give him a little spritz, and you'll notice that his scalp went from being a little bit red, and it just kind of helped heal it almost right away. It's official, we are done with phase 1. Now phase 2 would be clipper over comb. We're not using clipper over comb. Phase 3 would be cutting the top with scissors. But as we talked about earlier, we've already taken care of the top during phase 1. So now we're moving into phase 4, the blend. Now how do I get this blend perfect from this trimmer to this number 4? Let's get started. Phase 4. I decided to do this haircut with my X Instinct. If you push your lever down, that's going to leave the hair longer. If you close it, it's going to cut its closest. So we're going to start with it all the way out. This clipper is equipped with a taper blade, which gives you some forgiveness between the taper blade and the fade blade. So it's going to make fading a little bit easier. Now something else we're going to get into is a little bit of clipper manipulation. So as I approach my first step, I'm actually going to do it with the butt end of the clipper tipped out. This is going to really soften my guideline. This is not going to cut all the way down to a full open taper step. And as I go, I'm going to begin lowering this end and actually getting myself down to that step. So we'll set in our guideline, and we're going to call that our open taper guideline. So again, with the butt end tipped out, my goal is to create a space about the width of my finger, and I'm going to make sure that I do this all the way around the head and that it is proportionate. That's why it was so important to make our trimmer line as accurate as we can, because the rest of our haircut is going to be based upon that. That's the foundation of your haircut. Basically, what this open taper guideline does when we tip it out like this is it sets it in quite softly, and it starts to begin some of the blend above the open taper step. Now, I want to make sure that I get all the way down to flat as I go, because I want to soften this guideline up. But we're not going to worry about this guideline just yet. Something that I've done at my shop to give me extra time for these situations was I added something called a transformational haircut on my Booked In app. If you guys look at that, it costs a little bit more than a regular haircut because I need a little bit more time. So if you've been growing your hair out like all summer and you come in, you want a skin fade, that's obviously going to take some more time. So shout out to today's sponsor that allows me to do that, Booked In. They're my booking scheduling app. I've been with them over 3 years. They've been just great. And right now they're offering you guys 50% off your first 3 months. You guys can check the link down below. Head over to bookedin.com/Eddie and receive your offer today. Now the next industry secret is with fine hair, it's really important that you start skipping some steps. The next step typically would have been my number one. I would have put it on, I would have closed my clipper and then opened it 2 clicks. That would be a typical next step for a lot of cases. But because his hair is so fine, I know that if I do that, I run the risk of creating a fade that's just too high, that just doesn't stretch well, just doesn't blend well. I'll take my number one off, and I'm actually going to put on my 1.5 tight guard. Now the tight guards are going to cut very similar to the Wahl guards, and the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to open it 2 clicks. 1, 2. So we have our tight guard on, and we're going to repeat the process that we did basically with the open taper. Now you're not going to be able to manipulate the clipper as much, but that's exactly what we're going to try to do. So after the 2 clicks is up, we're going to begin tipping it out. I'm going to start to feather it into the number 2. Remember, I started this whole haircut with the number 2. So in theory, this should blend quite well towards the top there. So I'm just flicking up and out, and then I'm going to make sure that I get it flat, and I'm going to start to actually move my lever now all the way down to closed, keeping it on an angle. One of the next that we're going to talk about for industry secrets is using our angles. So I'm going to take my measuring tape and I'm going to put it on my clipper. You'll notice that it's just shy of 2 inches. One thing that you're going to see me constantly doing whenever I'm blending is I'm always going to be making sure that I'm working it on angles. Sometimes I'm only using a couple of teeth on the blade. Sometimes it looks like I might be holding it horizontal, but I actually only have one of the teeth touching the skin at the time. When you make a mistake, which is inevitably going to happen, you do not want to have a 2-inch line across your client's head. If we make a mistake, it's a lot better that we make a small mistake, which is why you see me using angles to create the blend. I'll have half of the guard down sometimes. Maybe I'm only using 1 or 2 teeth. Maybe I got it on a drastic angle, or I'm using it really lightly. All right, so we're making a really nice connection so far. We don't have that much more to do. Now we're going to put our number 2 on. I'm actually going to open it all the way, and my goal is to start making that connection into the number 4. So I know that I've already used the number 2, and I did that with the emerge. Detachable blades cut a little bit closer, and that's why this system works so well. Now at this point in the haircut, you're more than welcome to open it all the way or close it all the way, and we're going to be using the best barber tool we have to decide what to do, and that's our eyes. And that's another huge industry secret. You guys think that you could look at everything I do, every move I make with my clipper, and you could maybe like go and emulate it. That won't work for you because every client is just so different. So we have to understand how to start to develop our barber eye, and don't panic, it will come to you with practice. Back to that conversation about skipping steps. It's time that we go back and we fill those gaps in. You'll notice that we've made quite a nice connection between that number 2 and that number 4. And if in your case you have to pick up the number 3 and run that a little bit, you're more than welcome to do that. I like the connection I'm seeing here. I know that I'm going to use a little bit of shear over comb, so I know I'm going to be fine. And now it's time to start to iron out the rest of the blend. So to do that, now we're going to go to the number 1, and now we're going to go ahead, we're going to open it 2 clicks. 1, 2. So now you guys are going to notice my heavy use of angles and I'm going to begin kind of moving into that 1.5 area. Again, we're going to use the best barber tool we have, and that's going to tell you if you want to open this all the way, and then eventually you're going to want to close this. So working those angles, moving it in and out, using your eyes, and telling you where to go. What you should start to see is a pretty nice connection all the way from this one. We're going to put this one open, one closed. That's the step we're working. And once we do that, you're going to see that you got a pretty good blend going all the way to the top. Now, since we've succeeded in making such a nice connection up to the number 4, everything alongside of our blend is perfect and starting to fall into place for us. The very next thing that we need to do, once we've completed this number 1 step, is we need to remove the bottom skin line. And notice how I saved it for the end. I really think for beginners, or even for people who are advanced at this, saving this step to the end is going to really save you a lot of trouble. If I would have went in there and started working that out, and I'm a newer barber and I don't know what I'm doing, it's very easy to push this blend too high, to not stay where we intended to stay. And the reason why we're sectioning and we're making such nice guidelines is so that we can have a really good proportionate blend. And we won't do that if we're not careful. If I was to go through all the comments that I've had over the years, one that has popped up a lot is, why do we drop that line in the back? When and why would I do that? I will tell you why. If your client is thinning towards the top, if it's going to be difficult to make that colic lay down, or if it just fits his head shape good, if he has some like really nasty bumps in his occipital region that you just don't want to do your blend on, these are all great reasons. I don't like to fade right on the bone, or if he has a lot of concave on his scalp, I would like to do that fade above or below. But in general, I do like to drop it a little bit to give myself a little bit of room between that and the colic. And in this case, I don't really have to drop it too crazy because he's going to cut the top so short. The next adjustment that I'm going to make to my process due to the fine hair is I'm actually going to begin with this fully closed. So again, I have the lever fully closed, and I'm going to start to move into my trimmer line. I'm going to start kind of poking in there with just a couple of teeth, and little by little I'm using both angles, and I'm paying attention to the way the hair grows and the growth patterns that are in it. And as I go through this step, you're going to notice that your skin line is going to start to come out pretty good. You're also going to notice that you might make another line or something, but that's the whole point of having this lever. And that's why I don't like fading with detachables. Can I do it? Yes. I actually did that for years. However, I think it's just so much easier to not be sitting here and switching out blades all the time. Use them for what they're strong for, removing bulk. But when we get back down to fading, this is the way to go. So I'm going to start kicking this lever up just a little bit, and I'm going to maintain the exact same motions. Kicking this lever up, same exact motions. Now, you can actually use the lift, tip, and flick during this process. Remember in the beginning, we lifted the butt end. We can do that with the clipper closed a little bit. We can use it on an angle, and we're going to continue to follow our process until we have this fully open. So it might look something like this. Your first click, this is about how high you go. Your second click, this is about how high you go. And you go all the way until you have this thing back in the open position, and you're going to notice there's not going to be really any line down here anymore. You're going to be in your open taper area at the top, and we have a very small amount of adjustment to do here with our half guard. So I'll put a 0.5 here for the very last step. And one of the reasons why it is the very last step, it's the half guard. The half guard in the open position is actually going to leave the hair longer than a number 1 closed. The half guard in the closed position is actually going to cut closer than your open taper, which is why I always start with it 2 clicks open, 1, 2. We are going to call this the 2 click and flick. We're going to go through all the same manipulations that we use, whether you're tipping it out, using it on an angle, or holding it flat. All of these things are going to be decided by your barber eye. What does it need? What can I do? What risk can I take without creating a problem for myself? It's all about managing the risk here. And another big thing that I'll tell you guys just personally with myself, when I'm working on a client that I've been working on for a while, in this case, I got his haircut done out the door 20 minutes. But when I'm working on a client who I feel like I'm taking forever, when I start to see the end of the tunnel, when I start to see the light at the end of the tunnel, sometimes I tend to rush. So what I do now is, as soon as I start to see the end of the tunnel, I think to myself, like, look, I'm really close to finishing this. I do not want to create extra work for myself. I intentionally have to slow myself down just a little bit. So I will slow my movements down and I will make sure that I don't make a mistake here. So now that we're done with phase 4, the next step would be phase 5. That's typically the edge up. We would edge up with the trimmers and then we would follow up with the razor. In this case, the client doesn't really wear that, so you're gonna see me use my trimmers to just kind of clean up his C-cups a little bit. I'm gonna run across the front of his hairline, just kind of even that out, but I'm not getting into the hairline. It's not a full-blown edge up. Most of my classes are hands-on. I plan to do a intense 3-hour hands-on class in Georgia where we're gonna bring mannequins. It's gonna be $300 a piece. You're also going to get a clipper included in the cost. I have had over 20 years of teaching to kind of experiment with people and find out what works and find out what doesn't. And now I've created a whole formula that I want to deliver to you in person. So at the end of one of these classes, a lot of times what happens is you guys will come up to me. You'll say, listen, Ed, the haircut's looking pretty good. I feel like there's something I'd like to fix right here. What do I do? This is what phase 6 is for. So in phase 6, it's all about developing your barber eye. So I drew a very shitty looking eye right here just to kind of hammer home that point. But one of the things I make you do in my class is I make you fill out a couple of different things for theory. And all I do now is I point you over to that scale or to that theory and I say, okay, there's only one thing you can do when you have a problem. Typically, it's cut the hair a little bit shorter. Now, sometimes your problem might be a little bit above the step you think or a little bit below the step you think. So what we do here in phase 6 is we pick up guards and we make decisions that are not gonna hurt us. So if you think it's a half guard that you need to use to fix it, why not pick out the one? Open it up all the way. Use the corners, use the clipper manipulation, and get that blend just right. But one area that you're almost always going to have a little bit of cleanup in, and this is why having that soft set trimmer is so important, is that very bottom line, that trimmer line that you put in. Now we're gonna repeat the exact same process, tipping it on an angle, just using a couple of teeth. And I typically will have 2 trimmers that I'll use for this process. I'll always try the soft set trimmer first. If that doesn't work, then I'm gonna pick up the one that's aggressively zero gapped. If that doesn't work, one of the things that you're gonna see me pick up almost all the time is going to be my single foil shaver, which a lot of times I can skip the whole aggressive one and I can usually use my single foil shaver. I'm gonna tap down, I'm gonna flick out, I'm gonna make movements that are going to make my blend come together. I'm currently using the Uno 2.0. Little by little, you will step through that process and your haircut will start to look just like mine. One of the last things you guys are going to see me do is I'm going to use a little bit of shear over comb. Now I know a lot of people are probably sitting out there, they're like, don't you use your texturizing shears? I try to avoid using the texturizing shears as much as possible, especially with fine hair. With fine hair, our goal is to kind of build weight in that parietal area. If I remove all that weight, the blend is not going to look compressed, it's not going to look smooth, and I could definitely make mistakes that way. But if you're not comfortable with using your regular shears yet and shear over comb, definitely do the exact same movements, but just use your texturizing shears. You're going to check it out below. For a more in-depth shear over comb tutorial, you guys should check out the full video on that. It's really extensive. I really broke it down well. In fact, I've sat down and thought I'd like to remake this video a few times, but after watching it, I was like, God, this video is going to be hard for me to top. So check that out if that's something you're struggling with. But in the end, all we're trying to do is make our blend come together, make it look good. I finished this up with a product called Lava Clay from Johnny B to help it lay down a little bit, and I hit him once again with the aftershave to help heal his skin, especially after this long of growing his hair out. So with that being said, if you guys are interested in joining me for that intense hands-on class in Georgia, or if you would like to see that anywhere else in the United States, drop a comment and let me know. We're trying to see where we should go first, but we are going to be moving all around the country and delivering this class to you. So with that being said, if you guys like this video, if you guys felt like you got something out of this video, do me a favor, man, just smash that thumbs up, drop a comment, share it to somebody who needs it. And of course, if you guys need anything outside of Gamma or Stylecraft, you guys can head over to Williamsport Barber Supply, use my code Eddie10. You guys will find links in the descriptions to everything down below and you will save 10%. If you would like to purchase anything from Stylecraft or Gamma, you guys can use my code Eddie and you can save 15% with them. So with that being said, this is the YouTube Barber Academy, over 700 videos to help you learn. And if you like in-depth tutorials like this, keep it locked, subscribe. This is the place for you, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace.